Hey, we're here and we're back on the show with Mr. Casey Cheshire from Ringmaster.com. Now, Casey is a seasoned marketer with over 2 decades of experience, and he's the founder and CEO of Ringmaster Conversational Marketing. They are a B2B podcasting agency that will help your business build authentic connections. And Casey is also the host of a podcast called The Hardcore Marketing Show. The thing with Ringmaster is they will do guest management, which means researching and inviting the right guests, maintaining schedules, sending personal gifts. They will do B2B podcast production because branded podcasts are hard to produce and harder to do consistently. And they will use amplification to use social media to amplify your brand and keep it relevant and heard long after the podcast episodes have aired. So Mr. Casey Cheshire, he's a B2B marketing disruptor, speaker, author, and adventurer, and he's going to set us straight on what this B2B podcasting thing is all about and how we might be wasting our time and efforts in marketing, what to do instead. Mr. Casey Cheshire, glad to see you again.
Man, thank you for having me on here. I'm excited. It's great to see you again, too. And what a cool intro. Thank you.
I do my best, right? And this podcasting thing, I don't know about you, but like it does not come naturally to me. But the more I do it, the more I get out of it. And it helps with the social skills and the marketing, the repetition, the networking. There's so many pluses and benefits. But what has you excited? I'm here all about to shine a spotlight on you and your uniqueness. So what has you turned on these days?
Man, just reconnecting with customers. I am on this mission to destroy what I have experienced and now have a name for, disconnected marketing. And what is this? This is when your best campaigns are slowly doing worse. That email, that amazing ad campaign, those not your new channels you're experimenting with, but these ones that are like your go-tos, your tried and trues, they start declining and you're like, what is going on? Well, I realized you're probably disconnected. And the test I like to either give myself and people that I talk to is I say, okay, here's the question. Go ahead and tell me if you can name 7 of your customers by company name, right? And so you think, oh yeah, probably. Logos really help with that. Okay, yeah, that logo, that one's pretty popular. But now if I ask you a second question and I say, name 7 of your customers by first and last name, can you? And normally there's a little bit of a pause. And maybe some people can just rattle them right off. They've been doing a customer event recently or something. Great. But there's some kind of pause in between there, long or short. And whatever that delta is, that's a signal that your disconnected marketing is growing. It's happening in your organization. And what ends up happening is when you don't know, when you're disconnected, you don't have the data, you don't have the details. And then guess what? Just like AI, you start hallucinating. We make fun of AI for hallucinating and making up things, but we do too. We hallucinate with our marketing campaigns. We start making up things we think our customers want to read about, hear about, be interrupted on their phones about, but maybe they don't actually want that because, and we don't know. And so what ends up happening is that's where that decline comes from is that used to work. That was my go-to. Oh, it's not working anymore. We used to always do this. Oh, it's not working anymore. And guess what? It only gets worse as more and more AI content and noise gets in there. So I'm just here to shake up things a little bit and say, let's reconnect with our customer.
And that's a great test right there. And I can definitely relate to that of having like a less and less chance of success. And you're giving me flashbacks here, Mr. Casey, because my business used to be mostly all this $47, $97 sales. And I had that exact problem you're talking about. I was like, I know I've got all these little customers and I know they buy from me recently, frequently, but then I'd be like, oh my gosh, like there's like a handful of company names, and I feel like I'm on a better track now where I have more like $500 a month customers. I know I need to like increase my prices. We all do, right? I need more of that type. We all do. But I like where you're headed with this conversation because if you don't have a handle on this, you're just guessing, right? And you don't know and you don't have the data, as you said. And if you don't have the data, you don't know how to find that lookalike of more people that you already have. And you also don't know the messaging that got the people, that kept the people, that used to get more people. So I can see how we need to kind of be more of people, or we're a people person, or people. I don't know how you articulate it, but we need to have these conversations. And so, is podcasting the answer? Is the answer conversate with your customers and put them out as podcasts, or what's the solution here?
The answer is have a conversation, and podcasting is the best way I've discovered at this point to be able to facilitate having that conversation. Why? Because we're kind of shy in marketing. If we weren't, if we were all about people and risk and all these things, we'd be in sales. We'd have the sales haircut, we'd have the sales wardrobe, right? But we're not. We're marketers. We're like lab scientists working on our creative side or analytical side, and we're making experiments and campaigns. We're marketers. We love it. Awesome. Well, something about what we do makes it a little bit scary to talk to our customers. Not so much at a happy hour, mind you, but this is like, do I just call them randomly? Do I email them? Will they want to talk to me? It's hard. And I think sometimes we think, well, I'll just get them to do a case study, but that's kind of a take. That's like a, hey, excuse me, let me borrow your time. Let me interrupt your day. Let me take some of your time. It's going to help me. It's not really going to help you any. It's just going to waste your time, but please do that out of the goodness of your heart. And it's it feels weird, which is why most marketers don't do it. And then a lot of our case studies don't necessarily have defined data. They're not really measuring that well. So it never really works out well. So I realized I had fallen in this trap, right? I'm saying all these things. I'm saying all these answers. I'm not innocent of this. I was like Mr. Automation for a long time, decades talking about marketing automation, only to realize that I had gotten so behind all these apps. Like all these cool apps would come out and you'd get the next one and the next one and the next one. And all it did was put layers in between me and the customer. And those layers, then I was definitely not reaching out and learning things from them, right? So podcasting is a programmatic way, a structured way of starting this whole conversation, reconnecting with our buyer with a give. I'm saying, I would love to give you time and attention. Man, you're having me on your podcast. That is a gift. I am so aware of that. I'm so grateful. And you're saying, hey, come teach me, teach my audience, teach everyone who's listening, share. And so you're giving me a platform. You're giving even me your time and attention. It's amazing. So to start a relationship off that way, that's awesome. So now go back to that same customer. Instead of saying, I want to take your time, and I know you're already busy, you're saying, I want to give you time, attention, a little bit of a platform to maybe this helps your career. Maybe this helps your company. It's a give. It's a gift. And then they're happy to get on that pod with you. You can ask them questions. You make them look like a rock star. Make the pod about them, not about you. And then now they're starting to answer questions. You start to learn about what makes them tick and maybe what keeps them up at night.
Yeah, and you're articulating a lot of real like basic, fundamental, foundational ideas that it's hard to keep that in mind, right? It's hard to be like, no, I need to stay on the beginner stuff, because if someone is first now finding you or me and they're like, hey, like what's this all about? This is important stuff, and it's like so few people realize that podcasting is like your foot in the door, and it's weird to think like, why does that work, right? Many times they won't even read your cold emails or your LinkedIn DMs, but if you say, hey, I'm Casey, I want to have you on my podcast, suddenly they're open, and it's like, well, why is that? And so you're saying that it's because if someone is a serious business owner, if they're a player, if they have a mission, then they would love the chance to talk about themselves and reach some new audience. And you know what? I think a dirty little secret here with podcasting too, Mr. Casey, is that you don't need to have millions of viewers for your podcast, right? Like the average, like you and I, we do research on our podcast guests or people we are looking after, and you Google search or you YouTube search someone's name, I'm shocked at how like there's very few results. And even if I find like 2 YouTube videos from 5 years ago and there's 6 views and there's 10 views, I'm like, that's something. That's better than 0. They're on some podcasts. They have some of this SEO and social media ranking. And so you're saying that it's worthwhile to contact our customers, have them on our show, talk them up. That way they can teach a few things. And people need your help to do this, and they should be doing this. And so what stops them? If, say, someone didn't have you and they say, okay, I heard from Casey, I've heard enough, I'll go and try this myself, I'll have a B2B podcast. Why do people fail at it?
Yeah. And I would say, please do. Please launch a podcast. If it's with me and my team, awesome. If it's not with me and my team, whatever you need to do to reconnect with your customer, that's the mission. That's my mission, is to get us, we got to just defeat this disconnected marketing. It is a beast, right? And then marketing's crap when we don't have that information. So please do it. The thing that helps, and I didn't have a company like Ringmaster that I could leverage when I first started my podcast like a million billion years ago. And you know this, just like I did, you kind of learn the hard way, right? You've got thousands of episodes, and in things you learn along the way really helps shape things, right? So you come on here, man, you are polished, you know what you're doing, you ask great questions. This isn't your first rodeo. So there's two main things that happen here, and what we're talking about is what I like to call pod fading, right? And so a lot of people know this. Pod fading is this, and for those listening, it's people who start a podcast and then fall off the wagon somehow. And it's usually right between 7 to 12 episodes. What ends up happening is people realize, wow, this is a lot of work. Like a lot of work. Coordinating guests and even editing can take a long time. And even promoting it is actually most important, but that gets the back seat and that takes a long time. But then guess what? Part two is, oh man, no one's listening right away. Like my mom's listening, and maybe someone on my team did, or maybe they even didn't listen either. But early on, you don't necessarily have some of those metrics to sort of encourage you, and so people can pod fade. So bringing in a professional team where you can have your own producer, where you can launch the thing with success already, I would almost guaranteed, right? If you can have a team that like launches you the right way, you can skip a lot of the dumb moments, a lot of, oh, I didn't turn my mic on moments, but you can also skip past looking like you're learning this on the fly, and you can look like yourself or myself, where it's like, oh, wow, you look like you've done a lot of podcasts. How many have you done? Oh, I've done 8, but I've got a team behind me teaching me how to do it, looking over my shoulder and editing the heck out of this thing so it just shines, right? So that's some of the value of having a team come in there, especially a team that knows, like our team particularly knows that this is a function of B2B marketing. We're trying to help you connect with your customers. We do what's called connection casting. Look, you can have a podcast of any shape and color. I like to joke, one day I'm going to do this, a podcast where all I do is eat chips, probably Lay's, probably sour cream and, sour cream and chives, right? I'll eat those chips on a microphone. That's it. You can join me on this. Maybe my first episode,
Let's
right?
do it.
People can make podcasts about all kinds of things. Our podcast, connection casting podcast, it's all about reconnecting with your buyer. So we have a particular style and method for doing that. And those are some of the reasons why it's good to get someone in your corner that can help you out.
Oh yeah, 100%. So you bring up a couple of important factors here, right? There's the delayed gratification with podcasting, that like there's the downloads and the views come later. And I think that what helps me and what I hear a lot is like, well, if you're chasing the vanity metrics, you're like, oh, I want like 100,000 downloads. Well, wouldn't it be better to keep the user podcast, to keep the customers you have and attract new customers? And does that even matter if you get 10 views or 100 views? If it gets you those sales calls or gets you those transactions, like that seems like a better goal. And you also mentioned a little bit of like an 80-20 factor, right? Of if you're trying to do this yourself, 80% of the time will be spent on the recording and the production. And then that little 20% left over is the actual promotion and the follow-up. And it's like, you want to flip that, right? You want to spend 20% on getting it done and 80% on working on your people and on helping them. And so, and there's something to be said too about just taking that shortcut. I mean, it took me 400 episodes to even name my show properly. And then it took me to episode like 700 just to start doing video. And I think until like 1,000 to start doing the social media. So you can, I can both relate to like just taking a lot longer than we should in doing our show properly. And so talking with your customers, reconnecting, getting those case studies, getting those success stories sounds great. But when you introduce people to this idea, do people get nervous, or do they come up with excuses for maybe why they think they're not capable?
It's not your standard play. It's not the games that we play, and I just can't handle the games anymore, right? I mean, I've spent decades in your traditional marketing. Let's do this. Let's get the ad that brings them in and get them to fill out a landing page, and all these games to try to get someone to fill out the form, and then And then we try to trick them to talk to sales and get on the phone. And then, man, when I started my podcast, and it was accidental. I mean, I had to be shaken up as well. I was just doing it for content. I didn't want to write the content. I wanted to just discover it and talk through it. But what was amazing to me is I started having these conversations with just marketing leaders out there. And I remember talking to a particular marketing leader, an absolute badass, and she was the CMO of a large company that had the what would become, she would become a potential customer, but I didn't realize this. But she, after the call, she said, "Hey, by the way, I'm migrating from this software to this software." Right? She was migrating to this specific tool. She was like, "Oh, I'm moving to Pardot." Like, "Oh my gosh, my team specializes in that." She's like, "Oh my god, we didn't know." So it was on accident. It was like very serendipitous. And so we got our teams together. They scoped out a migration and they scoped out a deal, and we just did the deal. There's no sales cycle. She didn't have to have a whole bunch of content. I didn't have to nurture her for 30 days or 30 months, right? Or
Sure.
whatever the case may be. It was like two friends doing a deal together, just to solve problems together. And I realized, oh, okay, I was broken at that point. I can't go back and do traditional marketing. If I could just skip all that and talk one-on-one with the leader of the team that could potentially buy the thing that we do, and we could solve their pain, and I can find out on the call what her pain really is, man, why would I ever go back? So there's a little bit of a stretch where we were talking through, like, I know you get your traditional stuff, but for better or worse, it helps if they're experiencing that diminishing return of the disconnected marketing monster.
Yeah. And I think this is a great place to be, right? This is a great scenario of just a couple of friends chatting, hanging out, and saying, like, oh, yeah, like, what's your problem? And then, oh, well, maybe I can help you solve this. You're not putting in all this kind of work. And, I think something else that I'm observing from you speaking here is, everyone's saying, well, how do I be a slick pro as a podcast guest or when I'm putting out my content? And it seems like the answer is just to have a good bank of stories, right? Because if someone asks you to explain something or kind of solve a problem, it's one thing to say, oh, here's this 17-step process. Boring, right? It's like you're saying with the automation.
Yeah.
But if you say, hey, here's this person I met, here's this lady, and she had this kind of business and she had this adventure. If you have a few of those stories, then it's like you're not being braggadocious. You're not talking about yourself. And stories are more interesting when there's multiple people involved. And hey, if you were the hero or you were part of that and there's some kind of transformation, then man, that's podcasting gold right there, right? That really hooks us and gets us excited. And then it sneaks in the lesson there and it's a lot more fun overall. And so as far as you have this podcast production agency that does so much more as well, it's called Ringmaster. Is there something that really makes you angry with podcasting? Like we've talked about the disconnected marketing, but like, do you think a lot of people are missing the point somewhere when it comes to podcasting?
Yeah, for me, it's the vanity metrics. It's the obsession. Like, let's just call it like, hey, I want to be famous. I want all the clicks, the likes. If that's the mission, your pod will fail. If you look at most of the most popular podcasts right now, most of them, their mission was not to be famous, right? Joe Rogan wanted to hang out with friends and do drugs, which we don't condone, but he just wanted to hang out and be silly. Okay. And now it's like one of the top podcasts. Tim Ferriss just wanted to learn things because he's a super nerd. Right. And so there's all these different kind of pods where people just wanted to experience each other. So what we need to learn from these larger pods is it is still about the people, stupid. It is still the people. It's not, let me be famous. And I made the mistake of, we took on a client a long time ago and he said, my goal is to be more famous. First of all, he was not whatever the initial famous is, to be more famous. Sure. But you could see like, and I didn't know at the time that that's the wrong mindset, right? And did that project work? No. Right. So if anyone comes to Ringmaster now and says, I want to be about me, it doesn't work. And so this brings up the whole Ringmaster model, right? Why is it called Ringmaster? First of all, I saw The Greatest Showman. I thought it was the coolest movie ever. So it needed a name, the company needed a name after the circus. But more importantly, the Ringmaster method, right? The model of a Ringmaster. Yeah, they look cool. They got the cool outfit. But guess what? They're not saying, look at me, me, me. They're saying, I can't wait for you to see my next performer over here. I can't wait for you to see the trapeze at blows my mind. Hey, these clowns are really funny. Come look at them. They're pointing at everyone else. So the real ringmaster is the one that points at other people. And guess what? By pointing out and promoting others, you also rise. Of course, you become the one that brought them there, and they can introduce them to all these other people. So that's the thing that I try to keep in mind is it's not about those numbers. It's about your guests. Can you connect? Maybe do work with your guests. But also, if you fixate on that guest and the people, stupid, then the rest of it can grow organically. And that's the way to success.
And that's great. They call that abundance, right? Where it's not about you, it's about your customers that you help, and then they themselves help others. And it's really great to think about. And it gives you this adventure and it gives you this variety that perhaps a lot of us entrepreneurs, business owners wanted to begin with, right? We didn't
Yeah.
like the 9 to 5. We didn't like the career where it's the same day in, day out. But then you get stuck in, then you got your home office, right? Now you're making the automations. Now you're clicking the buttons. And it's like, man, I built myself another job. How do I get that variety and the magic back? It's by connecting with people and helping them out and elevating their PR presence and everything that goes along with that. And so a great starting point here is, at least if we're not yet sold on the idea, get ourselves convinced that we need to talk to our best customers and get them on a podcast. But we also said there's a lot to go wrong and a lot to figure out. There's pod fade. There is easily getting discouraged. There's biting off more than you can chew, all this other stuff. And so these businesses might perhaps need Ringmaster for their B2B podcast to do it right, to do it consistently, and for it to be something that they enjoy and something that grows. And so can you tell us a little bit about Ringmaster here? Like, who's it for? And if someone is a good fit, where do they go?
Yeah. I appreciate that. I mean, I'm here to help people reconnect with their customers. So, email me, Casey@ringmaster.com, and I'm happy to help. Whether you fit who our perfect, customer, profile is or not, let's get launch your pod. If I can help in any way, I'm here to do that. The companies that we work the most with are B2B companies. They're in that growth mode. They typically have a founder who is obsessed with a particular topic. They built some sort of SaaS app or some sort of offering, and they just want the world to know about it, kind of like what I'm talking about now. But so we work with those founders, and oftentimes we help them just swing above their weight class, right? You're a founder, maybe you got the A-level funding, and you're just going after things, you're grinding. But man, there's some established companies in the market, or there's some folks with big purses that are just able to outspend you on the ads and on the traditional side. Their expo is way bigger than yours. Well, the great equalizer is a podcast. So we work with companies like that to swing above the weight class and really show up using that ringmaster method of pointing at other people to get attention for themselves. So yeah, happy to work with any companies that way, but we work the best with a B2B company where your buyer is someone you'd love to learn more from.
Very nice. And there's a lot to be said about this unconventional, outside the box, almost guerrilla marketing that you're talking about, where everyone else is running those boring meta ads and they're sending it to some boring landing page and it's funneling the leads. And you're like, how do I compete? How do I stand out? How do I end run around these people? And it seems like the answer is to help out your own customers and elevate them. And it's not a lot of people think to do this, right? Not a lot of people have that kind of optimistic, positive mindset, the abundance of being like, well, I want to help other people. I want to talk up my customers. So Mr. Casey Cheshire at Ringmaster is going to help you out with this. That email is casey@ringmaster.com, and explain to him your situation. If you are about to launch your pod, if you have launched your pod, tell Mr. Casey about your mission and your vision and your values, and he can say, this sounds great. Here's some things we can do to get you on a path that is consistent and that gets you to where you want to go. And so that's Casey@ringmaster.com. And Ringmaster is the service where you can get these authentic conversations to create powerful connections. Your company's branded podcast will create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Before I let you go, Mr. Casey, it's time for the scary part of the show where I try to put you on the spot. I try to stump you by asking you for a fun or powerful quote or lesson that has served you in life or in business. So what comes to mind for you as far as a quote or lesson?
Launch a podcast. Just kidding. Okay. So For me, I think one of the things, and I'm working on this, right? I'm on the journey with this as well. It's all about being intentional. When I look around me at the most successful people, and I've had a chance to learn from all different kinds of people in different shapes and sizes of success, but the really successful ones, by and large, are the most intentional people in the room. And by that, they're thinking about, what do I want out of this? That being that call, that meeting, that hour, that event, conversation, the relationship. And you can maybe take this too far, but I certainly haven't taken it far enough, right? So just taking a step back and saying, what do I want out of this? Where do I want this to go? What do I want for my life? They're the kind of people that do an annual plan for themselves. And I do have some goals I try to set every year, and really take an assessment of my life and December comes and I'm like, okay, how are we doing? What do we want to do next year? And so little steps like that can just really set yourself up well. But I'm really working on that myself, just to be more and more intentional every day.
I love that. That's powerful. What is your intent? What are your goals? And that's a helpful decision-making tool, isn't it? When you say, oh, I've got this networking meeting I need to go to, and if say you're dreading it, well, either you talk yourself into doing it or you cancel it and don't do it. And what's the deciding factor? Well, what do I want out of this? Do I want to make a connection? And then will that allow me to power through the awkwardness of putting on pants or getting this uncomfortable conversation, and versus, well, if there's something else I can better do, now you're not leaving it up to random chance, right? If you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I've got this calendar appointment with Robert Plank, should I show up to it or not? Well, what am I looking to get out of it? And if it's to grow your business, to get some more new connection, new SEO, new social media, all right, cool. Well, now I know why I'm doing it. And that just seems like a healthier path to get to where you want to go and grow your business, and not just kind of wandering around, but saying, hey, here, I want to grow this company. I want to talk to these people. And that's why you and I do the podcasting, and why we do,
Yeah.
you mentioned about this kind of programmatic networking method. So what is your intent? Well, right now, if a B2B podcast is something that interests you, your intent and your next step should be to email Casey@ringmaster.com. That's CASEY at RINGMASTER.com, Casey@ringmaster.com. Go ahead, do it right now. Send that email. You'll be glad you did. And thanks, Mr. Casey, for showing up, getting myself energized, my audience as well, and getting us excited about the possibilities with podcasting. I really appreciate your message, and I appreciate you for taking the time, stopping by, showing up. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate the gift, and a big congrats on that 1300, on so many episodes and conversations and connections that you've made.
Well, thank you. Nice milestone. Got to get your numbers up. Otherwise, it's rookie numbers. So thank you for being part of it, Mr. Casey.
I do. I got to work harder.
All right. Awesome. Well, recording's done, and this is coming out April 16th or so.
Awesome, man. Cool.
I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, same, man. Same. This is fun. You got a great style. I mean, obviously, you're like the pebble that's been rounded by the ocean. So, I mean, it's smooth. It's smooth.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'd hope so, right? If you were still like, hello, how are you? After so many episodes, we might have a problem. But no, it's very smooth but authentic, right? So it's not like, oh, let me, it's very.
Yeah, like years ago, me and a guy, we laughed at John Lee Dumas because he's like the same 5 questions. It's like.